Hello there. I'm glad you've wandered into this little corner of the night with me. Outside thought, space stretches on like a dark ocean, scattered with quiet islands of starlight. Somewhere in that vastness, there are places where gravity grows so intense that even light cannot turn back black holes, waiting in the deep. Tonight, we're going to sit with a soft, almost secret question. What becomes of one of these giants when its long life finally runs out? Does something so absolute ever truly fade? We'll move slowly, like a story told over a sleepy midnight, following the faint whispers of physics that hint at their final glow and quiet disappearance. If these gentle journeys through the universe bring you comfort or curiosity, a quiet like and a soft subscribe. Help others find this calm, only if it feels right. When you're ready, we'll begin together, unhurried as the dark between stars. So, to even whisper about the death of a black hole, you begin far earlier, with a star. Not the small, gentle kind that warms quiet planets like ours, but a giant older than any myth we've ever told, burning in a way that feels almost inevitable. It shines, not because it wants to, but because the universe leaves it no choice. Deep inside, where no eye could ever reach, atoms are pressed so tightly together that they fuse. Hydrogen joins to become helium, and in that meeting, energy is released steady, relentless, like a silent heartbeat of light. That light pushes outward, a soft but powerful pressure that holds back gravity's constant tug inward. For a very long time, this balance holds. Gravity pulls, fusion pushes, and the star hangs there in space like a truce made visible. It looks calm from afar, but it's a calm built on tension, like a breath held just right. Yet nothing in the universe can keep its balance forever. The fuel in the core slowly runs low. Fusion, once a roaring fire, quiets to embers. The reactions that held gravity in check begin to slow, as if the star is growing tired. Gravity feels the weakness first. It has been patient, waiting, and now it leans in. The delicate balance tips, the outer layers, which once floated comfortably, begin to fall inward. At first it's gentle, then faster still, until the star's own material is plummeting toward its center. They crash into the core, pile up, and rebound with unimaginable force. In that instant, the star tears itself apart. A shockwave races outward through its layers, and the whole star erupts in a supernova, an explosion so bright that, for a brief moment, it can outshine an entire galaxy. From far away, if you could watch it unfold, it might look like some grand beginning, a new light being born, but it isn't a birth. It's an ending so powerful that the universe itself glows with the news of it. What remains after that brightness fades depends on how massive the star was. Smaller, more modest stars leave behind white dwarfs, small, dense, glowing embers, no bigger than a planet, but heavier than most minds are comfortable imagining. They shine quietly for a long time, then slowly cool into darkness. Slightly heavier stars collapse more violently and become neutron stars, where matter is compressed so tightly that protons and electrons have merged into neutrons. A teaspoon of that stuff would weigh more than mountains, a weight you can't really feel in your body, only in your imagination. But some stars are more extreme than that. The truly massive ones live brief, extravagant lives, burning so hot and so fast that they rush through their fuel. When their cores collapse, gravity doesn't stop at a neutron star. It keeps pressing and pressing, past the point where atoms make sense, past any familiar idea of solid or liquid or gas. The collapse dives inward until even light cannot find a path out. There is no final flare now, no visible surface left to watch. The star does not just die, it vanishes from ordinary sight. In that deep, inward fall, what used to be a star shrinks into something so compact that space and time themselves bend around it. The boundary around this region is not made of matter, not a wall, not a shell, but a threshold, a place where the rules of what can leave and what must stay change completely. This is the birth of a black hole. You hover near it in your mind's eye, weightless in the dark. From where you drift, it doesn't look violent. It looks strangely simple, a round, perfectly black absence, framed by a faint ring of light. Soft gas and dust nearby glow as they spiral toward it, forming a bright, swirling disk. This is the accretion disk, matter falling inward but shining fiercely on the way, heated to unbelievable temperatures as it whirls faster and faster. For a moment, that disk can blaze brighter than millions of suns combined, a last flare of visibility before crossing the invisible line called the event horizon. The event horizon is the point of no return. It isn't a surface you could touch, it's a boundary written into the structure of space-time itself. Anything that crosses it, dust, gas, light, a careless star, no longer has any path back out. To someone watching from a safe distance, it looks as though the falling matter slows down, fading and stretching, never quite disappearing, as if time itself is reluctant to let go. But from the point of view of the thing that falls, the drop is smooth. It passes through the horizon and continues inward, deeper into gravity's embrace, until ideas like before and after stop feeling useful. If you tried to drift closer, the universe would begin to feel different around you. Your sense of time would bend. Moments outside, measured by distant clocks, would rush ahead while your own experience slowed, as if you were moving through thicker and thicker syrup. Light from stars behind you would stretch into long, reddened streaks, like the cosmos itself was being quietly pulled apart in your view, colors bleeding into darkness. And yet, even here, at the edge of this quiet abyss, something unexpected becomes clear. The black hole is not just a consumer, it's a sculptor. Its gravity shapes the orbits of nearby stars, steers the dance of gas in its galaxy, influences where clusters gather and where new stars are born. In the hearts of many galaxies, including our own, giant black holes help organize the flow of matter on scales far larger than themselves. It's a strange kind of paradox, a thing that destroys, making possible the structures that follow. You begin to feel that the death of a star does not erase its meaning. It changes the way that meaning is written. The light it once released doesn't simply stop existing. Some of it escaped before the collapse and is still traveling through space right now, crossing gulfs of darkness, carrying the memory of a star that no longer shines. The rest becomes part of the curved geometry around the black hole, woven into gravity's quiet pattern. Physicists can describe this with the language of Einstein's general relativity, with equations that say how mass tells space-time how to curve, and how curved space-time tells mass how to move. But here, you don't need the math. You can just feel the weight of it, the way inevitability settles in like a calm after a storm. Somewhere far away, the photons that fled before the star's final collapse are still on their endless journey, little messengers of what once was. The black hole, meanwhile, grows heavier as time spills by. It feeds on nearby gas and dust, occasionally on entire stars that wander too close and are pulled apart, their remains stretched into bright streams before vanishing. Sometimes, two black holes find each other and merge, spiraling together in a slow, tightening dance. When they collide, they send ripples through space-time itself, gravitational waves that travel outward, passing through galaxies, planets, your own body, without you ever knowing. They are too subtle for nerves or skin, more like a faint shiver in the stage the universe stands on. As you imagine yourself drifting near the event horizon, a curious calm settles in. There is no sudden violence here, no thunderclap of destruction, just inevitability, quiet and complete, like watching the tide roll in on a shore no one has ever walked. The universe does not seem afraid of this darkness. It folds it in, treats it as part of the same long story told by light. Endings here are not abrupt stops. They're pauses, changes in key, places where the melody shifts. You picture a photon, a single particle of light racing inward toward the horizon. From far away, its journey looks like an endless falling, slower and slower, redder and redder, as if time is stretching its path into infinity. From the photon's own perspective, though, things are simpler. There's no waiting, no long hesitation. Its story ends in an instant, in a kind of timeless stillness inside the black hole's grasp. Yet while that tiny story ends, everything around it continues. Stars are still being born and dying elsewhere. Galaxies still collide and drift apart. And in the dark heart of the black hole, something remains unresolved. A tension, a question, like a knot in the fabric of reality. Because if nothing can escape from light to dust to entire stars, what happens to the information carried in their patterns? The precise way atoms were arranged, the detailed story of their past, the structure of the star's core, the swirl of its magnetic fields, does all of that simply vanish without trace? Or is it somehow preserved, hidden, scrambled into the surface of the horizon or into the quantum grain of space-time itself? You let that question float with you, gentle and unhurried, like a leaf drifting on an invisible current. The star that once burned so fiercely is gone. Its light has faded. The black hole it left behind is silent and still from the outside. And yet, the sorrow you feel is not just for what is ended, but for the mystery that remains, how the universe keeps its memories. As you rest with that thought, your mind drifts backward, as if time could loosen its grip for a moment and let you retrace the path. The black hole shrinks in your imagination, not by changing itself, but by you moving into its past. The darkness gives way to light again, and you find yourself standing, in thought, before the star as it once was. It's enormous now, a blue supergiant blazing with a brightness that would dwarf our sun. For millions of years, it has been turning simple elements into more complex ones, fusing hydrogen into helium, then helium into heavier and heavier elements. The layers inside it are stacked like the rings of a tree, but made of fire, shells of fusion burning at different depths. At its very center, unimaginable heat and pressure have kept gravity in check. Each second, it releases more energy than our star will pour out in its entire long life. Yet even this giant cannot keep going forever. Deep in its heart, the spread of elements has reached iron. Iron is different. Lighter elements, when fused, release energy. Iron, when forced to fuse further, does the opposite. It demands energy instead of giving it. So as the iron core grows, the star is quietly building the seed of its own undoing. You can almost feel the change. The star still looks steady from the outside, But inside, the balance is starting to slip. The iron core becomes heavier and heavier until gravity finally wins a sudden victory. The core collapses in less than a heartbeat. The outer layers, no longer supported, plunge inward toward the center, slamming into the collapsing core with colossal force. Then comes the rebound. A shockwave bursts outward, racing through the star's body. The entire outer shell is torn free and flung into space. A supernova blooms before you once more, but this time you've seen the prelude, felt the quiet stacking of elements that led to this eruption. The glow is fierce, filling the surrounding space with light. If sound could travel through the vacuum, this would be a roar immense enough to shake whole galaxies. But out here, it arrives as pure silence, all fury translated into light and motion. The material hurled into space is rich. Carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron, and more. The building blocks of planets, oceans, clouds, bones, and breath. It is strange, and yet oddly comforting, to realize that everything familiar, trees, skin, stone, even the calcium in a heartbeat, may have once been scattered like this in the wreckage of dead stars. In the universe, death is rarely a simple end. It is more often a scattering, a seeding. At the center of the explosion, the core has been stripped bare. What remains is crushed into an object so dense it wouldn't fit easily into words. Sometimes that remnant is a neutron star, only a few tens of kilometers across, yet heavier than the sun, spinning in the dark and sweeping beams of radiation across space like a lighthouse no one meant to build. If the original star was heavier still, even a neutron star is not the final answer. The collapse continues, deeper and deeper, until the black hole you visited earlier takes shape, the quiet remnant of all this bright chaos. Before that final collapse completes, though, there is a brief, tender moment that feels like a held breath, the star's last whisper. It's not sound, not anything you could catch with an ear, but a feeling of tension, a hum in the way space itself behaves, as if the universe is listening closely. The debris still glows. Streams of gas ripple outward, carrying the story of the star into the wider darkness. Some of that light will travel for billions of years, crossing interstellar space, slipping past future worlds and future eyes. One day, on some distant planet, a creature might look up and see a faint, glowing cloud and give it a simple name, a supernova remnant, never knowing they are looking at a message written long ago in the language of light. In the delicate filaments of that cloud, you notice how the shock wave has carved and shaped the gas, pulling it into ripples and threads. Over time, those filaments will cool. Under the quiet persistence of gravity, they will collapse into knots and then into new stars. The universe wastes nothing, even its endings are raw material for beginnings. It's easy, from far away, to think of space as empty and cold. But here, inside this image of a dying star, you can see how alive it truly is. The light racing outward is recycled energy, passed from one generation of stars to the next. The atoms flung into the dark will not stay alone forever. They will drift, join clouds, and someday participate in another fusion fire, another sky, another story. The universe's greatest beauty may be its refusal to waste even a single particle. Time stretches oddly around you as you watch. For the star, the collapse and explosion took only moments. For the light that leaves it, the journey will last longer than any single world's history. To someone who sees that light ages from now, it will feel as if the star is dying right then, in that very instant. in a quiet way. This means the star never entirely leaves the present. Part of it is always in transit, always arriving somewhere, always just now. You let that realization settle, gentle and slow. Every point of light you have ever seen in the night sky is like this, a story mid-sentence, its beginning long past, its ending still unfolding somewhere beyond your sight. The star that became a black hole, the one whose last whisper you just imagined, has written itself into the universe in more ways than one, in the elements it released, in the waves it sent through space-time, in the questions it left behind about what truly happens to its deepest secrets. The glow of the supernova remnant fades a little in your mind's eye. The expanding gas grows thinner, more transparent. The core that will one day become the black hole sits heavy and small, a seed of gravity waiting to complete its fall. For a brief, lingering moment, you can almost feel the last pulse of the star's heart, a final, quiet beat echoing through the dark before silence takes its place. That last gentle beat fades into memory, and even the silence that follows begins to change. What remains is the core, crushed into something so dense that words begin to fail it. Around this remnant, the beginnings of a black hole are gathering, drawing space and time toward themselves. You hover close enough to watch. At the center, the darkness sharpens, not like an ordinary shadow, but like a clean gap in space itself. Even the paths of light bend toward it now, their straight lines curving inward, the way a river finally yields to the sea. The star's glow has gone, but its gravity remains, steady and patient. It waits for whatever drifts too near. You ease closer to the forming black sphere, born from what was once hot and blue. The space around you feels heavier, stretched and tense. Ahead lies a boundary that nothing can cross and return from, the event horizon. It isn't a wall or a surface, nothing you could touch. It is an invisible threshold where every possible path forward points inward. If you were made of light itself, racing at the fastest speed nature allows, this would be your last chance to turn back. You hover just outside that unseen line, balanced between knowing and not knowing. From here, the sky looks strange and beautiful. The stars behind you no longer sit where you expect them. Their light bends around the black hole, stretched into glowing arcs and rings. The darkness acts like a lens carved from gravity, twisting the universe behind it. If you followed a fragment of matter falling inward, a grain of dust, a stray photon, you'd see it move slower and slower as it neared the horizon. To you, watching from safety, it would never quite reach the edge. It would hang there, its motion stretched thinner and thinner, its light reddened and dim, until it slipped from sight. Time near the horizon seems to slow to almost nothing. The closer something gets, the more its clock lags behind yours. But for the falling object, nothing special happens at the edge. There is no pause, no freeze frame, only a smooth crossing. One moment it is outside, the next, it has passed the horizon and continues inward. From its own point of view, time flows normally, right up until ordinary ideas of before and after stop being useful. They also hint at something quiet and deep about time itself. Time is not a single, steady beat ticking the same way for everyone. It's more like a landscape shaped by motion and gravity, with slopes and valleys where it runs at different speeds. Einstein showed that gravity is not just a pull, it is the bending of space-time. The more mass, the deeper the curve. Here, near the event horizon, the curve is so steep that every future path leans inward. You watch matter swirling around this pit in space-time, forming an accretion disk, a ring of gas and plasma spinning at remarkable speed, some of it close to the speed of light. It is unimaginably hot, yet from where you float it looks like a calm, glowing band around the dark center. From the black hole's poles, narrow jets of energy can blast outward across light years, marking its presence to the wider universe. Nothing escapes from within the horizon, yet the black hole reshapes everything around it. You wonder what it would mean to cross that boundary yourself. There would be no signal that you had stepped over it. One moment, in theory, some path exists that could carry you outward. In the next, every path leads inward. Even light, trying to move away, curves back, like a swimmer drifting into a current that never turns. Your sense of time would bend. Seconds might lengthen, while far away the cosmos races ahead. To anyone watching from a distance, you would seem to slow and fade, frozen forever at the edge. But inside your own experience, events would continue. You would fall into a world where every direction is down, not toward a floor, but toward a center, written into the shape of space-time. In that light, the phrase "point of no return" feels less like a warning and more like a description of geometry. Nothing pushes you in. It's simply that the paths outward disappear. As you study the darkness, you notice a thin, ghostly ring around it, the photon sphere, a fragile region where light itself can orbit the black hole. Here, photons circle in tight loops, caught between escape and surrender. If you could ride along with one, you'd see the universe wrapped around you in every direction at once. Stars above, galaxies below, your own path folded back around itself. It would be beautiful and disorienting, like standing inside a mirrored globe. Standing here in imagination, you feel genuinely small. This object bends not only light and matter, but the rules that tell you how time should behave. And yet there is comfort in that smallness, because everything here obeys simple, steady principles. Gravity curves space-time. Light follows the curves. Time slows where the curve is deep. The universe does not argue with this. It lives by it. Your thoughts drift back to the star that once shone here. Its atoms, its heat, its long, bright life have all been gathered inward and folded into this dark geometry. What was once a point of light is now an invisible engine. What looked like destruction becomes another form of transformation, written not in color and flame, but in curvature and shadow. You ease a little closer in your mind, and though you cannot cross the event horizon, you feel your perspective stretch. Distant galaxies smear into pale streaks, as if gravity has brushed its hand across the stars. Each second feels slightly longer than the last. The universe around you seems to move with a slower, deeper rhythm. You begin to sense that time is not only something you pass through, it can bend and pool, shaped by where you are and how strong gravity is. Near the black hole, a second can hold far more than it does elsewhere. For the black hole, time almost pauses. For the distant universe, it races on. Elsewhere, stars ignite, planets cool, lives rise and fade. Whole histories could pass while you linger near this one dark edge. There is a gentle inward tilt now, as if the space around you leans. Gravity here is not violent, it is steady, patient. You imagine what might lie beyond the horizon you cannot look past. Perhaps a singularity, a point of density beyond comprehension. Perhaps the strange rules of the quantum world soften that extreme in ways we cannot yet see. No one knows. Even the best theories blur at the center. You hover in that gap between understanding and mystery, held between what science can describe and what imagination quietly fills in. Around you, The stars stretch into faint rivers of light. The black hole deepens, not only as an absence, but as a doorway thought cannot quite cross. This place begins to feel less like an ending and more like a passage, a turn in the path that may lead somewhere you do not yet have words for. As that feeling settles, you notice something deeper. The darkness is not entirely still. It flows. It ripples. There is a rhythm here, too low for ears and too slow for eyes. You feel it more than you sense it, like a slight sway underfoot. Space itself is moving, not with sound, but with the soft flexing of its own fabric. You picture the vast cloth of space-time, a four-dimensional stage stretched and curved by mass and energy. The black hole sits within it, like a heavy dancer on that endless floor, its presence shaping how everything nearby must move. Space does not simply sit there. It streams slowly inward, like water circling a drain. You almost see those currents now, smooth and dark, carrying starlight as if it were petals on an unseen river. Gravity begins to feel less like a pull and more like the shape of the ground. Planets and stars follow their paths, not because they are yanked along, but because they glide along the straightest lines available in this curved space. They are following the easiest paths the universe offers. You let that image rest. Space becomes an invisible ocean. Time is the current that runs through it. The stars overhead are ripples on its surface, their motion quiet echoes of the same rule that holds you near the black hole. The glowing accretion disk looks like liquid fire painting those curves, each particle following a path carved by gravity. From far away, the scene might look wild, but from here you sense an underlying order in every orbit and flare. Even in this place of apparent ruin, the universe keeps to its rhythm. The disk flickers, and beneath its light you imagine the faint trembling of space-time itself. Whenever something massive moves or collides, that fabric ripples. Gravitational waves stretch and squeeze the universe as they travel, passing silently through galaxies, through planets, through you. You think of all the light that has passed this way, flashes from ancient explosions, beams from distant suns, even the faint background glow from the universe's beginning. Each ray bends to match the curves of space-time. Even the fastest light follows this choreography. In that realization, something softens inside you. You glimpse how deeply connected everything is. The same physics that guides galaxies in their slow spirals lets an apple fall from a branch. The same curvature that bends starlight also shapes the patterns of signals in your brain. Gravity is not something outside of you. You are woven into its dance. You imagine time as another partner in this motion. Near the black hole, it moves differently, slower, more deliberate. The deeper you go into the well of gravity, the more your moments stretch. Far away, the universe may be busy, stars colliding, worlds turning, stories unfolding quickly. Here, each second feels quietly extended. It is humbling and soothing to know that even time can bend. It means the universe is not in a hurry everywhere at once. It has places where it rushes and places where it lingers. The fall of dust, the turning of planets, the circling of black holes, each is a small variation on the same gentle rhythm. You let yourself feel as much of that as you can, vast, continuous, patient. Every motion, from a grain of sand settling on a floor to a star orbiting a galactic center, is a tiny echo of the same soft law. The universe does not fight gravity. It moves with it, folding itself again and again along the same quiet curves. And somewhere inside that thought, you recognize your own place in the pattern. You are not outside, watching. You are part of the fabric, a small, bright note in the long, low song of space-time and gravity, still sounding softly in the dark. When you open your eyes again, that song has changed key. The light near the black hole has shifted, as if the universe is leaning a little more of its weight into this one place. The glow from the accretion disk flickers in slow, soft waves, and for a moment you catch sight of two thin jets rising from the poles, long, narrow beams of charged particles flung outward across intergalactic distance. They pulse gently, keeping rhythm with the black hole's spin, guiding magnetic fields into spirals that twist upward like slow, luminous vines. Another verse in the same gravitational music you've been listening to all along. Even here, at the threshold of collapse, the universe continues to build. Out of falling matter comes motion, out of darkness, light. You drift a little farther back, giving yourself space to watch the scene unfold. From this calm distance, the black hole no longer looks like an isolated shadow. It looks like a conductor in a vast orchestra, shaping everything around it with its silent presence. You sense how its gravity guides the stars nearby, how it sculpts the flow of dust and gas, how even distant orbits carry its imprint. Some believe the very spiral of the Milky Way may trace its elegant shape partly due to the black hole resting at its center. Here, destruction is never just destruction. Gravity creates pattern, and pattern becomes beauty. A soft realization settles into you. Space-time isn't a static thing. It's a behavior, a response, a gentle, continuous way the universe reacts to mass and energy. Everything bends, everything moves. Everything influences everything else. It feels almost alive as you float in the quiet glow. The black hole rotates slowly, a dark dancer turning at the center of its cosmic waltz. Around it, matter glows, light curves, and time seems to breathe. You're no longer just watching, you feel woven into the motion, part of its rhythm, part of its memory. For a moment, the boundary between you and the universe blurs. The dance doesn't belong to something distant. You are inside it, carried along. Then, from below, a deeper tremor ripples through space-time. The gravitational waves shift. Their pattern changes ever so slightly tighter, more focused, like a distant heartbeat calling from the black hole's center. It isn't frightening, but it feels serious, weighty, as though something ancient is drawing attention to itself for the first time. Beneath all the swirling light and graceful curves, there is a core where the dance breaks down, a place where motion stops folding outward and begins falling inward. You pause in that awareness, letting it move through you like dust drifting across a sunbeam. What lies deep inside? What beats beneath the quiet surface of gravity's song? You begin your descent, and the glow of the accretion disk slowly fades behind you. Light stretches into red, losing strength as gravity leans against it. Each second feels slightly heavier, as if time is reluctant to follow you deeper. But you drift inward anyway, not pulled by violence, but drawn by inevitability of gravity's soft persuasion. Space bends around you in odd geometries. Straight paths become arcs. Distances feel uncertain, dissolving into something unfamiliar. You try to decide where down might be, but the concept unravels. Here, every direction leans toward a single destination. This is the realm where gravity stops shaping and starts collapsing. Matter doesn't break into pieces here. It folds inward, squeezed beyond anything recognizable. Atoms fall apart. Electrons and protons, those long-trusted building blocks, are crushed past their identities. It feels almost gentle, not a destruction born of anger, but of having no more room to give. You're approaching what physicists call the singularity, a word that sounds tidy, almost harmless, though it carries the weight of everything the universe cannot explain. The singularity isn't an object. It's a condition, a limit, a place where all the familiar equations give up, leaving only a sign pointing toward infinity. Space loses meaning. Time loses sequence. The rules beneath all rules evaporate. If you could see it, which you cannot, it might appear impossibly small and impossibly dense, a perfect curve where all direction collapses inward. It isn't a point inside space, it is where space ends. You drift closer, though closeness doesn't mean much here. The sense of size, distance, even motion grows soft around the edges. Gravity becomes less like a pull and more like a slow, steady pulse, deep, ancient, and calm. Some say the singularity might not truly be infinite at all, that when you reach scales smaller than atoms, quantum laws may intervene, refusing to let collapse go on forever. If that is true, the core might be a tiny, wild knot of energy where space-time folds and twists in ways we cannot yet imagine. Others dream of something grander, that a singularity could be a bridge, a seed, a doorway, that inside the death of one universe, another might bloom. The thought glows softly in your mind. Perhaps the beginning of all things, the Big Bang, was the far side of a black hole's heart. Perhaps creation and collapse are twins facing each other through the dark. The idea feels both heavy and peaceful. You realize you're not just watching the death of a star anymore. You're watching the universe recycle itself. Every fall is a beginning. Every ending carries the blueprint for something yet to come. You wonder what becomes of the information that falls in. Does it vanish completely? Or is it stored, encoded in ways too fine for human senses to grasp? Hawking once suggested that perhaps the information never disappears, that it lingers at the horizon, scrambled into a quantum whisper within the faint radiation that escapes. If that is true, then even the singularity is not silent. It hums with memory. You try to listen. It isn't a sound, but a sensation, like a faint vibration deep inside the dark. A heartbeat beneath immeasurable layers of gravity, slow, steady, unhurried. For a moment, you imagine every black hole in every galaxy echoing in synchronicity, a quiet network of gravitational hearts keeping time with the cosmos. What you feel here is not emptiness, it's waiting, a pause in the universe's breath. You think of everything you've ever known, from grains of dust to oceans, from stars to thoughts, and how temporary each one is. Yet the rhythm beneath them continues. Even as light disappears, even as matter collapses, the pattern remains. The singularity is both an ending and a seed. Perhaps it doesn't destroy information. Perhaps it presses it into a code too intricate for us to read, like a book written in a language of curves and silence. Your thoughts slow to match the gravity around you. Time grows uncertain. Sequence loses meaning. If time is built from motion, from change, from cause and effect, then here, where all motion falls inward, it begins to thin. It does not stretch into eternity. It simply steps aside. You are looking into the pause between heartbeats, the quiet that holds the promise of the next. That promise brings comfort. Nothing silent stays silent forever. Even black holes have an ending. As they slowly evaporate through subtle quantum radiation, their mass fades, their edges soften. When one finally vanishes, everything it carried, every scrap of matter, Every tangled bit of information returns to the universe as energy. It might take longer than galaxies live, longer than memory itself can measure, but in the end, nothing is truly lost. Even in the deepest gravity, the cosmos remembers. You let yourself rise gently from the singularity's quiet center. Behind you, something subtle glimmers near the horizon, a faint shimmer, delicate and strange, like the first breath of light climbing out of darkness. It feels quantum and alive, as if memory itself has begun to loosen. You drift in that glow, knowing that what falls will one day return, not in the same form, but in essence, light becoming memory, memory becoming energy, energy becoming possibility again. In that soft awareness, you rest for a moment, floating in the dark, wrapped in the gentle certainty that nothing in the universe ends without giving something back to the stars. Carried by that certainty, you begin to drift upward through layers of curved space, leaving behind the region where time had almost stopped breathing. The pull of the singularity softens somewhere below you, though its slow rhythm still seems to echo faintly in your bones. The farther you rise, the more the universe begins to feel familiar again. Distances separate themselves, directions find meaning. Light returns in careful, tentative steps, as if the cosmos is remembering how to shine. For so long, everything here has been about falling inward, matter, energy, information, slipping past the horizon into what looked like an endless appetite. But as you float higher, you notice that the universe resists the idea of gone as a final state. Even here, at the edge of deepest gravity, nothing is truly lost. At the surface of the event horizon, something delicate is unfolding. You cannot see it as a bright flare. It is more like a tremor, a quantum shiver in the boundary between inside and outside. This is the place where matter begins to turn into memory. On a small blue world far away, Stephen Hawking once imagined this. He treated the black hole not as a perfect prison, but as a slowly leaking vessel. Quantum mechanics, he realized, does not allow absolute silence. Empty space is never truly empty. It seethes with brief appearances and disappearances. Even a black hole must, in some way, whisper what it has swallowed. You picture it now, tiny pairs of particles flickering into existence near the horizon, born as twins from the restless vacuum. One falls inward, claimed by the black hole. The other escapes outward into the wider universe. From where you drift, those escapes look like the faintest shimmer of energy, hardly more than suggestion. But what is faint in a moment becomes immense over ages. Over billions upon billions of years, those tiny escapes add up. This gentle leak is called Hawking radiation, the soft breath of a black hole slowly dying. Each escaping particle carries away a little energy, a fragment of mass. The black hole shrinks so slowly at first that its change is almost meaningless to any normal lifetime. But the process is there, patient and persistent. Gravity's silence being converted back into light. You let yourself drift closer to the horizon without crossing it, the way you might stand near a fire you cannot quite see. There is a kind of warmth here, not on your skin, but in your understanding. The black hole, once imagined as eternal, is not immortal after all. It is fading so gradually that only the universe itself could keep count. You think of everything folded into its mass, the matter of ancient stars, the dust of broken worlds, the energy of rays that once crossed galaxies. All of that, in some deep, tangled way, is being released again, particle by particle, through this quiet quantum exhale. It feels as though the black hole remembers everything it has ever taken in and is now letting it go in microscopic size. The laws of physics are stubborn about such things. Information, they insist, cannot simply vanish. It may be scrambled, stretched, and twisted beyond recognition, but some imprint must remain. The event horizon becomes the keeper of that imprint, a kind of cosmic archive where every bit of data is encoded in the quantum vibrations of space-time. In your mind, the horizon becomes a tapestry woven from gravity alone. Each thread holds a record of something that once fell in: the layered interior of a star, the orbit of a planet, the flicker of light across an alien ocean. Somehow, all of it is stored not in the black hole's center, but across its surface, smeared along a two-dimensional skin. It is a strange thought and quietly beautiful. The more you lean into it, the more it resembles something familiar. A memory, a mind, a network of information held in patterns and rhythms. You begin to wonder if the universe itself is, in some way, a vast act of remembering. The black hole does not erase, it transforms. It turns matter into record, event into echo, existence into code. Nothing is truly gone, only rearranged beyond easy recognition. You imagine drifting alongside one of those particle pairs at the horizon. Two quanta appear together, bound by a connection distance cannot break. They are entangled, linked by a shared origin. One falls inward toward the singularity, the other escapes into the open universe. Between them now lies an impossible boundary, yet each still carries information about the other, like halves of a sentence that once was whole. That invisible bond is one of the ways the universe stays coherent. Memory does not always travel as objects moving from place to place. Sometimes it moves as relationships that refuse to disappear. Even in separation, there is unity. The escaping radiation drifts outward, gentle waves of energy expanding into the dark. Somewhere, those particles will mingle with the afterglow of the Big Bang, with starlight, with the faint, persistent hum that fills all of space. Hidden in their properties is the story of what the black hole once contained, written in a language no eye can read, yet still present. The thought draws you back to your own inner sky the way your mind holds the past. You do not remember every detail of a day, every word of a conversation, every curve of a face. You remember fragments, impressions, the way something made you feel. You, too, collect moments and let them fade, while their patterns quietly shape who you are. Maybe the cosmos remembers in a similar way, not through perfect replicas, but through echoes. You picture the particles leaving the horizon, traveling for unimaginable distances. They cross cold gulfs between galaxies, wander through thin, ancient gas, and eventually blend into the background glow that still whispers of the universe's birth. Somewhere in that soft sea of radiation, the story of this one black hole is hidden faint but not erased. You take a slow, imaginary breath and feel the echo of everything you've witnessed: collapse, silence, transformation, release. The universe begins to look less like a stage for events and more like a conversation between forms. Nothing is simply lost. It becomes something else. Every fall becomes a trace. Every trace, a possibility. You hover just beyond its fading edge and feel the difference. Where space-time once bent sharply inward, it now relaxes by small degrees. The boundary shimmers with radiation, the slow final breath of one of the universe's most secretive creations. This is Hawking radiation at work, the gentle way a black hole gives itself back. It begins almost imperceptibly. Quantum pairs still appear at the horizon like bubbles rising through very deep water. But as the black hole loses mass, those flickers become more frequent. For every particle that falls inward, its partner escapes outward, carrying away a whisper of mass, a trace of heat, a sliver of memory. The old idea that nothing escapes a black hole softens into something more nuanced. The black hole does not spit out the things it swallowed in recognizable shapes. Instead, it slowly translates its own existence into light. It is evaporation, but stretched across the full length of cosmic time. You try to imagine watching this not for minutes or years, but for eons. For a black hole as massive as the sun, the full evaporation would take on the order of 10 to the power of 67 years. By then, the bright age of stars will be long over. The night sky will be sparse and quiet, and still, the black hole will remain, exhaling itself one particle at a time. At first, the radiation is cool and dim, easy to overlook, but as the black hole shrinks, its temperature rises. Paradoxically, the smaller it becomes, the faster it evaporates. When it was huge, its gravity felt smooth, and its radiation whisper soft. As its mass dwindles, it grows hotter, more intense, racing toward its own ending. Near the final stage, the evaporation quickens into a brief, bright finale. You drift closer in thought, sensing that quickening. The warmth you feel is not physical. It's the awareness of energy reclaiming movement. Every escaping particle carries some encoded piece of the black hole's history. You cannot decode the pattern, but you can trust that it exists, that nothing is entirely unremembered. You picture the horizon contracting, smaller and smaller, like a circle being drawn inward to its own center. Pairs of particles appear, separate, depart. The steep gravity well becomes shallower, the curvature less extreme. At some point, no horizon remains. The black hole has returned all it had. This process will likely outlast almost everything familiar. When galaxies have thinned out and the last normal stars have cooled to embers, the universe will still not be utterly dark. The final glimmers will come from black holes, finishing their slow evaporation, a scattered collection of last lights in an enormous, quiet sea. They are like the final watchfires at the edge of time. Eventually, each of those lights will flicker for the last time. There may be a small rush of energy as the final portion of mass is converted. No thunder, no dramatic blast as stories like to imagine. Just a brief flare, then smoothness, where space-time once dipped so deeply. Where the black hole stood, there will be only a gentle field, no horizon, no singularity, just photons and particles on their way outward. You sense that what you are witnessing in imagination is more than the death of a particular object. You are watching the universe practice the art of letting go. Stars turn to ash, ash turns to dust. Dust turns to background. Even the deepest wells of gravity cannot hold forever. They too open their hands. There is a softness in that surrender. The last photons do not fall back. They wander. They join the faint, pervasive glow that fills space, the aftertaste of creation. In them, in ways too subtle for language, is the record of what once existed, the star that collapsed, the worlds that may have circled it, the light that once warmed their skies. This is not simple destruction. It is memory becoming motion. You think again about the long interplay between light and gravity. Gravity bends light, traps it, hides it in curved paths. Light, patient and fundamental, waits in the fabric of quantum fields. In the end, Light finds its way outward again, not in a single burst, but in a drawn-out, steadfast return. They are not enemies, you realize, but partners. Gravity gathers. Light disperses. Collapse and radiation, inhalation and exhalation. The black hole is in its final breaths now. The radiation grows warmer, faster, brighter, a quickening pulse after an eternity of slow beats. If your eyes could watch across such immense spans, you would see a tiny flare in an otherwise quiet patch of space, a last glimmer announcing that a chapter has closed. In that moment, everything the black hole has ever been is returned. Its mass, its energy, the information once encoded on its horizon, all of it flows back into the universe as a mist of particles and light. What was once an abyss becomes brightness. If only for a heartbeat in cosmic time, you rest with that image. Somehow, the universe feels gentler. There is tenderness in knowing that even its most fearsome creations end not in rage, but in release. Where the black hole once was, there is now only a faint stream of photons moving outward, a ripple of warmth traveling through immeasurable cold. With time, those photons will stretch, their wavelengths lengthening until they are too soft to see, too slow to notice. They will merge into the quiet hum that fills all of space, the same ancient murmur that has echoed since the universe first began to expand. The silence that follows is not empty, it is full of what has been given back. You linger there for a while, cradled in that silence. The questions you carry feel less urgent, not because they are resolved, but because you now hear the rhythm beneath them: collapse, curve, glow, fade, return. Over and over, in stars, in black holes, in lives, you look into the dark where the black hole once was, and for the first time, you do not see an absence. You see a completion, a long-held breath finally released. The deepest knot of gravity has loosened, its thread slipped back into the vast, patient fabric of the cosmos. In that darkness, there is no threat, only continuity. And you understand in a soft, quiet way that nothing, not even a black hole, can hold on forever. Sooner or later, everything that falls finds some path, however faint, back into the light. As that understanding settles, stillness begins to gather around you like a soft blanket pulled over the cosmos. The light from the last black hole's final breath drifts away, stretching into wavelengths too gentle for any eye to see. For a moment, there is only quiet, no flares, no collisions, no spirals of hot gas, just a universe exhaling everything it once held, letting go of its brightest knots of gravity and sinking into a calm that feels less like an ending and more like rest. You find yourself wondering what remains after even the last light fades. When all the stars have burned their fuel, when black holes have given back their hidden energy, when every bright moment has stretched thin and vanished into the background, what is left? Does time still move when there are no changes to mark it? Does space keep expanding into a darkness that never answers? Or does the cosmos at last lie down and rest for good? You drift with those questions, letting them hang in the vastness like unborn stars' possibilities that have not yet chosen their shape. There is no hurry here. The universe has more than enough time to be uncertain. Around you, the echo of the black hole's final radiation continues its journey. You float alongside the faint particles, small fragments of warmth moving through an ever-expanding ocean of space. There are no sharp events now, no sudden flashes to pull your attention. The grand violence of the early universe, the raging fusion, the galaxy mergers, the storms of newborn stars, has softened into something quieter. The galaxies that once shimmered with billions of suns now glow with a tired gentleness. Their gas is mostly spent. Their youngest stars are memories. The blue giants died first, bright and brief, leaving behind more patient red dwarfs. You pass one of these aging embers, a small star glowing with the dull warmth of a coal that has almost finished burning. Around it, frozen planets drift in silence. Their surfaces are covered in deep frost, crusted over by a billion winters with no spring. There is no true day here, no true night either, only a faint, steady dimness that never changes enough to notice. The star's light has become almost an idea rather than an experience. As you watch, time begins to smear again. Millions of years slide past like slow waves. The red star grows weaker, its fusion falters, and eventually it shrinks into a white dwarf, a dense, hot core of what once was, shining only with its stored heat. Much later, after another unimaginable stretch, even that glow begins to fade. The star cools and darkens until it becomes a black dwarf, invisible except for its gravity. You drift through a universe full of these quiet remnants, white dwarfs, black dwarfs, aging neutron stars turning cold, the occasional lonely planet circling nothing at all. The expansion of space continues, steady and patient, pushing everything farther apart. The grand structures, galaxies, clusters, filaments, drift away from one another, their ties stretched thin. In the growing distances between them, everything cools. The background radiation, once a hot afterglow of the Big Bang, has faded into a long, slow murmur. It's no longer warm enough to glow in any visible way. It is more like the memory of warmth, the recollection of a fire that went out ages ago. The universe is not crashing or tearing itself apart. It is simply relaxing. You notice something delicate in this long unwinding. Energy is not disappearing, it is thinning. Like a scent released into an ever larger room, it spreads out so widely that no single place holds enough of it to stand out. This is entropy reaching its quiet victory, not with drama, but with a gentle smoothing of all differences. There is no single moment when it wins. No explosion, no sudden collapse, no loud ending. Just a gradual settling, like sand resettling on the ocean floor after a long, fierce storm. The wild waves of creation have spent themselves. What remains is calm. You float between what used to be galaxies, now only faint halos of mass, slipping toward invisibility. Somewhere, far away, a few black holes are still finishing their evaporation, sending out their final flickers. Their numbers shrink, their glow dims, and eventually even those last sighs of light are done. What is left are relics, cold dwarfs, silent neutron stars, thin dust, rare wandering planets. All of it floats in a sea that is growing colder and more even with every passing age. Time continues, but its meaning grows faint. Trillions upon trillions of years drift by, uncounted and unobserved. Processes keep happening, but so slowly and with so little difference between one moment and the next that they almost dissolve into stillness. Motion is no longer a dance. It is a slow, almost imperceptible slide. You might be tempted to call this death, yet when you listen closely, it doesn't quite feel like an ending. It feels more like rest. The universe is not broken. It is simply finished with the part of its life that required so much change. Every photon, every atom, every grain of matter and burst of energy has found its way toward balance. The restless rush of creation, stars igniting, galaxies colliding, black holes devouring has given way to equilibrium. You watch one of the last black holes fade in the distance. It releases its final whisper of radiation, then disappears. The light it leaves behind will be the last flash this region of space ever knows. That faint pulse stretches and cools as the universe continues its expansion, eventually becoming part of the background murmur, indistinguishable from the rest. There is a kind of fragile beauty in this quiet, not the beauty of bright colors or dramatic shapes, but the beauty of completeness. The story that began with a burst of fire has arrived at a soft, even glow. Physicists have a name for this state, the heat death of the universe. It sounds harsh, but the reality is strangely gentle. Energy is spread so perfectly evenly that nothing can happen anymore. There are no temperature differences, no pressure gradients, no pockets of potential. Without imbalance, there is no reason for anything to change. It is as if the universe has said, "That's enough," and laid down to rest. You imagine drifting through that quiet eternity, surrounded only by stretched out light and rare particles spaced unimaginably far apart. It does not feel cold in the ordinary sense. It feels peaceful, like the feeling after a long day, when every task has been done and nothing more is required. Still, a small question stirs inside you, soft but persistent. If everything stops, if nothing changes, if no events distinguish one moment from the next, what does it mean for time to continue? If there is no difference between now and later, does later still exist? Does the universe keep expanding in perfect silence, its last note hanging forever in the air? Or is there room, even here, for something unexpected? You look out into the dim, featureless horizon and let your thoughts wander. The great structures of matter have relaxed into sameness, but the foundations of reality, the quantum fields that underlie everything, never become entirely still. They hum, faint and restless, with a kind of built-in uncertainty. In that uncertainty, there is always a small chance of a fluctuation. Perhaps, somewhere in this vast quiet, a tiny spark appears. Not a star, not yet, but a brief surge of energy in the vacuum, a bubble of space-time with slightly different conditions than the emptiness around it. A fluctuation so unlikely that it may take longer than any measurable span to occur, and yet, given enough time, the improbable can become inevitable. You picture it, a flicker smaller than an atom, glowing softly in the dark. For reasons buried in the rules of quantum fields, this tiny region of space might begin to expand. At first, the growth is microscopic, nothing more than a whisper. But the expansion feeds on itself, stretching faster and faster until it swells into a new, vast cosmos. From that spark, light returns. Perhaps this is how it has always been. Universes giving rise to universes, each one blooming out of the quiet remains of another, the way new plants can sprout from an old forest soil. Our universe, with its stars and stories, might simply be one leaf in a much larger garden. The thought is dizzying and tender at the same time. You let your awareness stretch with the imagined expansion of that new bubble of space-time. In your mind, you watch it grow from something unspeakably small to something unimaginably large, carrying within it the possibility of new stars, new worlds, new lives that will one day look up at their own night skies and wonder how it all began. In a strange way, the deep, silent cosmos you drift through now feels familiar. It is like the quiet space just before sleep, when the mind no longer clings to the day but has not yet stepped into dreams. The universe is no longer shouting with supernovas and blazing galaxies. It is whispering, almost humming to itself. If you could look back through the whole sweep of time, you would see the arc, from the first fire of the Big Bang to the calm of perfect balance, from chaos to slow clarity, from frantic creation to still reflection. Through all of it, one simple truth repeats: nothing truly disappears. Everything that exists remains part of the fabric, even when its form changes beyond recognition. You think of your own body, built from atoms forged in ancient stars. Those atoms will eventually drift apart, join interstellar gas, participate in new forms. You have been part of this rhythm of return longer than you have been aware of it. You always were. The realization brings a quiet comfort. Endings, it seems, are never quite as final as they appear. They are more like transitions, shifts from one way of existing into another. Not even you are truly separate from that cycle. The darkness around you deepens. There are no landmarks now, no familiar shapes, only an expanse that seems to stretch without texture. Yet it does not feel empty. It feels like floating inside a memory that refuses to vanish, even when no one is there to recall it. You begin to understand that this long, quiet era is not a mistake or a failure. It is a necessary part of the story, the way sleep is part of being alive. The universe has moved from creation to contemplation, from doing to being. Somewhere beneath the silence, quantum fields continue their soft, restless hum. Possibility still exists, even when nothing obvious is happening. A low, steady vibration of readiness fills the void, too subtle to disturb the calm, but too real to deny. The universe is not gone. It is waiting for the next unlikely fluctuation, the next sudden pocket of energy, the next tiny region where conditions tip just far enough away from balance for something new to unfold, waiting to remember itself in a different form. You drift on through this timeless feeling calm, carried by a cosmos that has nowhere it needs to be and all of eternity to get there. There is no fear of endings here, no rush to begin again. Only this soft, infinite pause between cycles. And if you listen with the part of you that can hear more than sound, you almost sense it, a faint whisper behind the dark, a hint of light that has not yet chosen where to shine. A promise, quiet and patient, that even in the deepest stillness, the story is not over. It is simply resting, gathering itself for the next dawn beyond the dark. You hang there, carried by a universe that has almost forgotten how to move. The dark around you is no longer even dark in the way you once understood it. It's just vast, smooth, unbroken, without stars or shadows. There is nothing to light your path, nothing to mark a direction. No clusters, no galaxies, not even the faint, thin sigh of radiation you once followed. The last whispers of black holes have faded. The background glow has stretched into something so quiet it might as well be still. This is not emptiness, though it looks that way at first. It's fullness that has forgotten what it was full of. A sea without ripples, a song with no sound. A breath held for so long it has become the new normal. The universe has grown so old that the word age no longer fits. It has slipped beyond every scale you ever used to measure time. You are surrounded by nothing changing. If there were air, it would be perfectly still. Every atom that once rushed and collided and burned now rests in quiet agreement with everything else. Nothing differs, nothing stands out. Time, which once strode forward with confidence marked by sunrise and decay, by heartbeats and spinning worlds, has lost its footing. You try to feel it passing, the way you always have, but there is no motion left to measure it by. Time needs contrast, a before and an after, a then and a now. Here, all those distinctions have blurred. Without change, time has nowhere to land. It doesn't shatter, it settles, it pools, like a lake with no wind. If you could hold a clock in your hand, its gears would not be broken. They would simply have nothing left to count. The second hand would hover in place, not stuck, but unneeded. There are no events left to separate one tick from the next. This is the quiet many physicists imagine at the far end of entropy, a final stillness where the universe becomes a wide, calm ocean of cold energy and stretched out space. Everywhere the temperature is the same. Every force is balanced. No difference, no gradient, no stored potential. Nothing left that can be used to do work. No reactions waiting to happen. You might expect such a state to feel tragic, but drifting through it, you sense something different. There is a strange softness here, a sense of completion. The universe has done everything it could do. It has flared into being, formed particles and atoms, sculpted stars, ignited galaxies. It has burned and collapsed, merged and separated, fallen inward and flung itself outward. It has recycled its own debris into new structures, over and over. Now, after all of that, it rests. You find comfort in that. The idea of before and after loosens its grip. Your thoughts begin to curl in on themselves, not as lines, but as circles, gentle loops that close where they began. Time is no longer something you move through like a corridor. It's more like water you float inside, weightless, untethered. Perhaps this is what eternity truly feels like, not an endless stretch of minutes, but the absence of minutes altogether. A stillness so complete that it becomes its own kind of motion, the way a perfectly sustained note can feel like both sound and silence at once, the quiet hum of being, without the urgency of becoming. You look outward into what used to be space-time and sense that it has grown softer at the edges. The clear lines and sharp curves have smoothed. The fabric of the universe, once tense and twisted by gravity, is beginning to relax. The dents and folds that once guided planets and sculpted galaxies flatten out like a sheet of cloth laid gently on a table. Gravity, the patient sculptor that shaped everything, has grown tired. For ages beyond count, it bent time, drew matter together, orchestrated the dance of orbits and collisions. But with almost nothing left to gather, nothing left to hold, even gravity's influence thins. Space-time does not stretch the way it once did. It simply exists, wide, flat, quiet. In that hush, the last heartbeat of time begins to slow. And then something you did not expect, a tremor, so small you would miss it if you were not utterly still. A flicker in the calm sea. Somewhere in this endless sameness, a tiny quantum fluctuation stirs. A ripple in the smooth ocean of nothing happening. It is random. It has no purpose. It is not planned or aimed. And yet everything that ever existed, everything that ever thought or felt, began with something very much like this. You turn your attention toward it. It is barely there, a slight vibration of uncertainty in the fabric of the universe. Quantum fields, the deep undercurrent of reality, never fall completely asleep. Even in perfect balance, they tremble a little, like a body that still remembers how to breathe in the middle of a dream. It's like hearing a single soft note long after the concert is ended, a hint of melody in the pause between songs. You begin to understand. This flicker, this almost non-existent quiver, is time's way of reminding the universe that potential never truly disappears. Even when everything seems finished, possibility lingers. It can be quiet for as long as it wants, but it does not die. You drift closer. The flicker gives off no light you can see, no heat you can measure, yet you feel a kind of warmth in its presence. It is not energy yet, not matter. It is the possibility of both a seed with no shape, waiting for the right conditions to unfold. If it grows and given enough eternity, something like it eventually will. It can swell, stretch, and blossom into something astonishing. It could inflate into a new cosmos, new space, new time, new rules, new constellations of possibility. Not a replay of this universe, but a completely different version of existence. Another experiment in being. You find yourself wondering if this is how universes begin, not with royal fanfare, not with intention, but with rest, with stillness so pure that it naturally tips into motion again. With silence held so long it becomes the doorway to a new sound. The flicker strengthens, but not in any way that would impress an eye. It grows brighter only in your awareness. It feels like time is stretching out its limbs after lying still for too long, testing its movement, remembering how to count. Not in days or years, but in changes, tiny differences that could become larger ones. A ripple spreads, slow and delicate. The geometry of space-time shivers as though remembering it once had structure, valleys and hills, curves and slopes. You recognize the sensation. Time is melting back into existence. The universe's rest was not a full stop. It was a pause, a deep inhale before another exhale. It occurs to you that this might be the rhythm written into everything: expansion and rest, stillness and renewal, life and death, death and something that follows. Not a simple loop, perhaps, but a pattern layered across endless scales. Galaxies rise and fall. Stars ignite and fade. Lives begin and end. Universes, too, might bloom and soften and give way to others. You let that idea wrap around you like a warm blanket. You are not outside of this pattern, looking in. You are woven into it. Your atoms have already traveled through births and deaths of stars. Your thoughts are ripples on currents set in motion long before you were born. The flicker you're watching is not separate from you. In some quiet way, you are part of its potential. You are the pause. You are the spark. You are the next beginning, waiting. A soft warmth rises through the stillness, like the feeling of first light before it touches the horizon. It is not sunlight. There are no stars yet. It is something older than that, the pulse of space-time waking up to itself. The last traces of the old universe dissolve fully into the background of possibility. The pool of stillness stirs. In that stirring, time takes its first new step. A single vibration grows into a wave. The wave gathers into expansion. Expansion becomes the groundwork for creation. You close your eyes, and, for a heartbeat that has no length, everything feels familiar again. The promise of light, the hint of motion, the quiet thrill of beginnings. Somewhere within this newborn tremor, a single photon appears, the faintest glimmer left over from what came before. A tiny packet of light, freed from the last remnants of a dead cosmos, now moving through a reality that is just once again beginning to understand itself. The hush around you feels almost alive. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of something immense about to speak. You watch that solitary photon, a spark in the pre-dawn, carrying the echo of an entire universe inside its stretched-out wavelength. It slips forward through space that barely exists yet, through a darkness that is not yet dark because there are no eyes to define it. It is so faint you could almost convince yourself it isn't real, but it is. It is the final breath of what was, and the first note in what will be. You move with it, not chasing, just keeping company. There is nothing to slow it down, no gas, no dust, no gravity wells to bend its path. The photon knows nothing of time. For it, every journey is instantaneous. The history of the universe it came from its first flare to its final stillness, collapses into a single, boundaryless moment. As you travel beside it, you sense the story it carries, not as images or words, but as a trembling frequency. In the length of its wave are the fingerprints of everything that shaped it, the glow of distant stars, the roar of supernovae, the quiet radiance of fading embers. All the light that ever was has, in some way, passed through the same vast stage. It moves on, unhurried, unobserved. Its wavelength stretches wider as the new space around it swells. Once, it might have been something sharp and bright. Now, it is a long, gentle sigh. Eventually, as expansion quickens, the photon begins to blur into the fabric it travels through. There comes a point, not marked by any sign. You can see where the distinction between traveler and road begins to soften. Space stretches so fast that even light cannot keep the old pace. The photon's wave grows broader, slower, its oscillations taking ages. Each tiny pulse feels like a farewell. Then, almost tenderly, its identity dissolves. It stops being a separate streak of motion and becomes part of the quiet structure of space-time itself. Its energy, however faint, joins the general field. It becomes less like a message and more like the silence after a message has been received. Yet even in that, it is not lost. The story it carried has been given back to the fabric it passed through. The universe does not archive it in a visible way, but the principle remains. What once burned as light now rests as part of the background that will nourish whatever comes next. Watching this, you feel something settle inside you. This is not tragedy, it is completion, the curve of a story, closing, not abruptly, but with a soft, full stop. Every tale the universe tells seems to end this way, not with a sudden crash, but with a return to balance. The photon does not die. It becomes everything it ever touched. And in that realization, a quiet shift happens within you. You are no longer only an observer floating through an indifferent vastness. You are made of the same processes. Your atoms are borrowed from old stars. Your energy, your warmth, your fleeting thoughts are forms of light and motion wrapped in temporary boundaries. One day, all of that will stretch and soften and rejoin the larger field, just as the photon did. That is not an erasure, it is a reunion. Light, you understand now, was never just illumination. It was the bridge between beginnings and endings, carrying memory across expanses no other messenger could cross. At the end of all things, that bridge does not collapse. It merges with the ground beneath it. You let out a slow, imagined breath and feel the thoughts settle like dust in gentle gravity. Even when everything seems to end, something continues. Not as form, but as principle. Not as motion, but as the possibility of motion. Somewhere, beyond what your mind can reach, that principle will rise again. It always has. You can feel it now, faint but familiar. The same soft vibration that once blossomed into your own universe. The hum beneath existence. The tremor before a new beginning. You listen, and in the depth of the quiet, it grows just a little stronger, like the first almost unheard note of a song that has not yet decided how beautiful it's going to be. You linger in that near silence, as if floating at the bottom of an endless sea. The last ripples of the old universe have stretched so far they're almost impossible to notice. Almost. If you weren't so still, you might miss them entirely. But here, in this quiet, even the slightest motion becomes a message. Beneath you, around you, within you, space-time holds its breath. The echoes of ancient collisions have thinned into something more like a mood than a movement. And just when it seems that the cosmos has finally settled into a single, unbroken note, you sense it, a pulse. It's deep and slow, less like a drumbeat and more like a gentle swelling, as if the fabric of reality itself has decided to inhale. At first, you think it's another lingering gravitational wave, one more ghost from an impossibly distant past. But this is different. The rhythm doesn't fade, it gathers. The pulse repeats, a little stronger. The smooth ocean of space-time tightens, just slightly, in one tiny region. Not enough to disturb the overall stillness, but enough to notice if you're paying attention, which you are. It feels as though the universe, after resting for an eternity, is now shifting in its sleep. There is no light, no matter, no sound. Only a small change in curvature, a faint condensation of possibility. The quantum fields that once hummed everywhere are still here, and in one tiny patch, their fluctuations begin to align, reinforcing one another instead of canceling out. A bubble of more forms inside a sea of almost nothing. You drift closer to it, drawn not by gravity. There is almost none left, but by curiosity. Inside this bubble, something unusual is happening. Space is not just existing, it is straining. Tiny regions nudge apart, and with every nudge, they gain more room to move. Expansion feeds on itself. What began as a small fluctuation starts to inflate. The bubble is still unimaginably small, yet it carries a pressure that has nothing to do with air or heat. It is the pressure of pure possibility, pushing outward. You begin to feel time take on direction again. Not everywhere, only within this growing patch, but it's enough. There is now a before and an after to the pulse, a sequence where previously there was only a still, unchanging whole. Time is waking up inside this bubble. From the outside, the change is almost invisible. The infinite calm remains, but within this tiny region, space-time is rushing. It inflates so quickly that distances double and redouble before any particle has a chance to realize what's happening. In that rapid stretching, any remnants of the old universe that slip inside are smoothed out, their details erased, their patterns softened into a uniform field. And yet, in the tiniest irregularities, something is preserved. The old echoes, the gravitational ripples, the faint variations left behind by ages of motion, all of these leave subtle fingerprints in the way the new space stretches. Tiny differences in density, slight variations in curvature, seeds for what might one day become galaxies, stars, and perhaps curious beings looking up into their own night sky. You feel quietly moved by that. The idea that a wave from a long-dead collision could nudge the architecture of a universe that doesn't even exist yet. Memory, woven not as stories, but as initial conditions. Inside the inflating bubble, space outruns itself, expanding faster than any signal can cross it. Regions lose track of one another. What was once a single, coherent fluctuation becomes an enormous, spacious cosmos, with room enough for everything that might follow. You hover at its edge, where the old universe's stillness touches the new universe's restless stretch. It's like watching a dawn that has no horizon. Light has not appeared yet, but the sky has started to open. The bubble's expansion will eventually slow. The wild inflation will ease, leaving behind a smoother, cooler space. In that cooling, energy will condense into particles. Particles will gather into clouds, clouds into stars, stars into worlds. And on at least one of those worlds, perhaps ages from now, someone will look up and feel the same mix of wonder and smallness that you feel now. They will see a night full of light and think it is the beginning. They will not remember the quiet that came before, the long sleep of a universe that gave them its echoes. They will call their first light the dawn of everything, because from where they stand, it is. You feel no need to correct them. That is how beginnings work. They are always mid-sentence from a wider point of view. The pulse grows steadier in your awareness. You can sense the newborn space-time inside the bubble thickening with structure. Fluctuations that once felt abstract now carry weight. They will become temperature differences, density variations, pathways along which matter will someday flow. A new arrow of time is forming here, pointing away from equilibrium toward imbalance and complexity. You realize, slowly, that the echo you've been following was never only a memory of what has died, it's also a bridge to what is forming. The ripples of the old universe have become the scaffolding for the new one. The past is not separate from the future. It is folded into its very bones. There is no clean line where one universe ends and another begins. There is only transition, a long exhale becoming the next inhale, a final vibration becoming the first heartbeat. What you've been calling death is simply the part of the cycle where things hide their motion. You are not outside this process. You never were. The same physics that guided your neurons and your breathing has been at work from the first flash of light to this quiet stirring. The atoms that made you once belonged to stars. The energy that moved you once fell through the grip of black holes. The pulse inside the bubble steadies. Expansion dominates. The old universe, the vast, quiet room you've been drifting through, becomes less relevant with each moment. Its role is not erased, just completed. It has passed on its patterns. Its echoes have done their work. You rest on the boundary between what has been and what will be. The echo of the old cosmos and the heartbeat of the new one blend into a single, quiet rhythm. In that rhythm, you recognize something that feels like home. It's not a place or a moment. It's the simple truth that nothing is ever truly alone or truly gone. Every universe carries the memory of the ones before it. Every ending shapes a beginning it will never see. You float there without needing to move or understand. It is enough to feel the hum of space-time under you, around you, and within you, the lingering vibration that never quite fades, the promise that even in the deepest stillness, there is always another breath waiting to be taken. A question rises in the dark. Could death be creation? At first, there is only quiet, a stillness so complete it feels almost sacred. You float inside it, weightless and wordless, as though existence itself has forgotten how to exist. Nothing pulls at you. Nothing pushes you away. There is only a wide, gentle pause. Then, faintly, a tremor. Not loud, not sudden, but steady, like the very first pulse of a newborn heart. The echo you felt before deepens, settles into a more regular rhythm. The silence around it seems to thicken, bending inward to make space for this returning beat. After an unimaginably long rest, the universe is beginning to dream again. It starts impossibly small, a quantum whisper, a fluctuation in what once passed for vacuum, a ripple that, by all ordinary logic, should not matter, and yet somehow it does. Out of almost nothing, energy stirs. The placid field of space-time folds inward, then outward, the way water might respond if a single drop disturbed its surface. You realize you are witnessing something that has likely happened before and may happen again without end. What you thought of as the death of the universe was not a closed door, but a condition, a preparation, the quiet that makes room for the next beginning. Physicists give this moment a name: quantum tunneling from nothing. The words sound almost whimsical for something so profound. The nothing here has always held potential, a restless sea of probabilities. Most of the time, those probabilities cancel one another out, and the void seems calm. But every so often, one tiny region tips over a threshold. A bubble of energy swells out of the stillness. Inside that bubble, new space-time forms. Inside that space-time, a new universe is born. You watch the birth begin. It does not roar. It does not blaze in any way an eye could see. It unfolds. The first act of creation is not light, but expansion, a single point blooming in every direction at once. It is not expanding into space. It is making space as it goes. Time, which had pooled and grown still, starts counting again, taking its first new steps. Within this newborn bubble, laws of physics crystallize out of possibility. They write themselves into the fabric of reality, drawn from a deep, timeless mathematics that existed long before any particular universe took shape. Gravitation, quantum fields, constants, and symmetries, all of them choosing their values, their relationships, their tone. It is breathtaking, this paradox. Creation through completion, life born from entropy's perfection. The old universe did not fail. It succeeded so fully in spreading energy and smoothing itself out that it became the fertile ground for what comes next. You imagine the last echoes of that old cosmos, the fading gravitational waves, the final photons stretched beyond color, the faint hum of information encoded in the quiet, all of it curling invisibly into this new beginning, not as memories you can read, but as subtle constraints, tiny preferences in how the new space-time chooses to unfold. A seed of memory hidden in the soil of nothingness. The bubble's expansion is unimaginably fast, faster than light, but not in defiance of physics. This is physics deciding what fast means. Space itself stretches, doubling and redoubling, before there is anything like a star to notice. This burst is what cosmologists call inflation, the first great heartbeat of the new cosmos. Vacuum energy transforms into matter and radiation. The fabric of space smooths itself, ironing out sharp wrinkles while leaving the slightest ripples that will one day grow into something grand. You hover at the edge, watching a universe unfold like a living idea. It glows not yet with stars, but with potential. Each flicker of energy, each tiny fluctuation, is a promise of galaxies that will shimmer and fade, of worlds that will form and erode, of beings who might look up and wonder in their own distant nights. It all feels strangely familiar. The rhythm of expansion, the rising hum of light, the slow coaxing of order out of deep chaos, all of it echoes what you have already witnessed, first in memory, then in imagination. In that familiarity lies something quiet and profound. The universe does not repeat itself exactly, but it rhymes. You look more closely at this new reality. As it rushes through its first fractions of a second, energy cools just enough for particles to appear as more than fleeting possibilities. Quarks, electrons, neutrinos flicker in and out, dance and collide, fusing into protons and neutrons. It is chaos, but a fertile chaos, shot through with symmetry and direction. Soon, simple nuclei will form, hydrogen, then helium. Time will stretch, temperatures will drop, and eventually, much later, the first stars will ignite. Those stars will forge heavier elements in their cores: carbon, oxygen, iron, just as their predecessors once did, in a universe that now exists only as echo. Planets will assemble from dust. On at least some of those planets, chemistry will flirt with memory and sensation. Something will crawl, swim, grow, maybe even think again. And somewhere, perhaps on a quiet world under a new sky, a mind will look up and ask the question you're asking now: where did all this begin? The answer, you realize, will be the same, here, at the edge of what looked like an ending. The universe feels less like a machine and more like an organism now. It expands, breathes, evolves, grows still, and then renews itself. Even what you once called its death throes turn out to be creative. Entropy is not its enemy. Entropy is its gardener, trimming complexity that can no longer sustain itself so that energy and structure can find new forms. You think of stars that must die to forge the elements needed for life, of cells in a body that must die so that the body can grow and heal, of memories that must fade in order to make room for new ones. Over and over, endings turn out to be doorways disguised as silence. As the new universe continues to expand, the old one, your long, dim sea of cooled matter, silent stars, and evaporated black holes, dissolves completely into abstraction. It survives only as influence, as minute asymmetries and quantum patterns that shape the newborn cosmos in ways it will never consciously know. You can almost feel the handoff between ages, seamless, natural, inevitable. The universe does not fall apart, it passes itself forward. If that is true, then maybe you have existed many times, too, not as the same person, with the same memories, but as part of the same pattern. The atoms that make you now were forged in the hearts of stars that belong to another era, maybe even to another cosmic cycle. The spark of awareness moving through you might be one of many ways the universe has found to look at itself. You are not standing outside the rhythm, observing it. You are one of its recurring notes. As this thought settles, you notice the light in the new universe growing stronger. The expansion slows just enough for matter and radiation to decouple, for light to finally travel freely. Photons begin to stream through space, no longer constantly scattered by charged particles. A soft, nearly uniform glow fills everything, a warm fog of radiation that will, in time, cool and stretch into the cosmic microwave background of this reality. It is like a first sunrise that shines everywhere at once. You drift through that afterglow, letting it wash over you. The universe, still young and dense, is filled with a hot, glowing plasma, a sea of protons and electrons moving in loose synchrony. Through this plasma runs an invisible scaffolding of dark matter, unseen but influential, already tugging ordinary matter into slight clumps. Those clumps are the future homes of galaxies. The memory of what came before is at work here, not as clear images or stories, but as patterns, small ripples in density, tiny imbalances in energy, faint imprints from a cosmos long gone. They guide this new creation like notes from an ancient piece of music, ensuring that while this universe is new, it is not without heritage. You move through faintly glowing clouds of gas, warmed by the newborn light. The overall temperature of the cosmos drops as it expands, but for now, it is still warm enough to sing, warm enough for atoms to form, cool enough for light to roam. Everywhere, photons scatter and stream, illuminating the vastness. The universe looks like an endless ocean of embers, glowing softly in all directions. As it grows, time begins to feel familiar again. Seconds separate into meaningful units. Gravity starts to deepen wells in space-time, pulling matter inward. Small knots of gas grow denser, their own gravity feeding their growth. From those knots, galaxies will eventually emerge. Within galaxies, stars. Within stars, heavier elements. Within those elements, the possibility of oceans, air, leaves, thoughts. It is a strange mixture of newness and remembrance. This universe is not a blank page. It is a story written on reused paper, with faint impressions from older chapters pressed into the fibers. The language of physics is the same, but the accent is slightly different. New details will unfold, but the grammar of gravity, light, and quantum fields remains familiar. The laws themselves are a kind of memory. Gravity remembers how to curve space-time. Light remembers how to move at its constant speed. Atoms remember how to hold their charges in delicate balance. Each interaction is a reenactment of principles that have held true before, across other ages, other configurations. Memory, you realize, is not confined to brains. The cosmos remembers through persistence of law, through repetition of pattern, through the survival of what works. As the universe expands and cools further, you drift alongside the first true stars, forming in dense pockets of hydrogen. Their birth is sudden and fierce, a collapse of gas under its own weight until fusion ignites in the core. They blaze into existence, sending torrents of light into what, until now, has been a soft, uniform glow. For the first time, darkness has local sources of brightness. The stars shine like memories rekindled. Inside them, familiar processes begin again. Hydrogen fuses into helium, releasing energy. In more massive stars, helium will fuse into carbon, oxygen, and heavier elements. These are the same substances that once built mountains, rivers, clouds, and living tissues in a universe that no longer exists. You can almost hear these newborn stars whisper the same promise: I remember how to burn. Far in the future of this new cosmos, those stars will grow old. Some will swell and shed their outer layers gently. Others will end violently, exploding as supernovae, flinging their enriched interiors into space. From that ash, new stars and planets will condense. On some of those planets, complex molecules will assemble, and on some of those, awareness will flicker awake. When that awareness begins to wonder, it will trace its origins back through chemistry and physics to stars just like these. It will discover that the carbon in its breath, the iron in its blood, the calcium in its bones were all forged in starfire. It will feel the same astonishment you feel now. The universe does not forget. It transforms. You drift closer to one bright young star, surrounded by a thin, rotating disk of dust and gas. Within that disk, grains of rock are beginning to stick together, their tiny gravities pulling them into clumps. Those clumps will grow into planetesimals, then protoplanets, then full worlds. The The paths of these grains are not random. Each one remembers how to move, following the curved lines laid out by gravity and motion. You feel awe, not just at the birth of new worlds, but at the continuity that underlies them. These planets to be will not know the old universe. They will never see the stars and black holes that came before. But they will carry that prior cosmos in their bones, in the mixture of elements that compose them, in the values of the constants that govern their chemistry, in the background radiation that still hums through their skies. The ashes of dead stars have become the seeds of new suns. The universe has resurrected itself from its own memory. You think of your own mind and how it works, how the specific details of a day may fade, but the feelings linger, how the shapes of past experiences quietly inform how you move through the present. The universe seems to have its own version of this. It does not keep perfect records of every event. It keeps the patterns. It remembers how it felt to exist, how to burn, how to expand and cool and rest. Maybe that is enough. You close your eyes and let the starlight and background glow flow through you like a tide. You are not separate from this cycle. You never were. The photons that would one day touch your eyes on a small planet began their journey in furnaces like these. The energy that fuels your thoughts is part of the same vast circulation you have just watched unfold across multiple ages of reality. You, too, are made of memory. As the new universe continues to grow and the first galaxies spin more confidently, you feel a quiet realization settle in your chest like a soft weight. The miracle is not that things end. The miracle is that from those endings, something so familiar and yet so new can rise again and again. And somewhere, scattered among the stars that are only now beginning to burn, the next version of you, of us, of wondering awareness waits in pieces, ready to be assembled by time. Darkness holds you like a warm, weightless blanket. It does not press, it does not threaten, it simply is. Around you, early stars scatter their light across impossible distances, tiny sparks on an ocean of black. The longer you float here, the clearer it becomes. Without the deep, surrounding dark, their radiance would have nowhere to stand out. A sky filled edge to edge with light would be blinding, but empty of contrast. It is the silence of space that gives each star its outline, each galaxy its grace. The universe has always written its story this way, brightness etched carefully onto a dark page. You glide past a blue-white giant, blazing with steady light. Photons pour outward in every direction, racing across the void. Yet the star is dwarfed by the night wrapped around it. The blackness does not swallow the light, it frames it. Creation and quiet, shine and stillness, holding each other in balance. Darkness begins to feel different. It isn't the opposite of light. It is the room light needs in order to exist. Before the first stars, before even the first atoms, the universe was darkness, not cruel, not cold, just unlit potential. Then gravity gathered matter, clouds collapsed, and in secret cores hidden inside those clouds, fusion began. Every candle the cosmos has ever lit started as a hidden warmth in the dark. You drift farther from familiar clusters into deep intergalactic void, a region between galaxies where distances stretch so widely that starlight fades into whispers. Here, the darkness feels almost pure, like the inside of a thought before it has become a word. The few distant galaxies you can still see are faint smudges, islands of light on a sea of something unseen. Because even here, the dark is not truly empty. Something invisible is holding everything in place. You feel it as a gentle pull, a weight without a surface, dark matter. It neither glows nor reflects, yet its gravity wraps around galaxies, forming vast halos that cradle their stars. It keeps spiral arms from unraveling, clusters from flying apart. Without this unseen mass, the pretty pinwheels and glowing bands you love to imagine would never have held together long enough to exist. You move through one of these halos, drifting in a volume of space dominated by matter that will never flicker or burn. Most of the universe's matter chooses not to shine, and yet everything that does shine depends on it. Stranger still is dark energy, the subtle pressure causing space to expand faster and faster over time. It doesn't push on you like wind. It is more like the rule that says there will be more room tomorrow than there was today. The universe is not just moving into darkness. The darkness itself is growth. You realize that the cosmos has never been at war with its shadows. Light and dark are not rival armies. They are partners in the same choreography. Darkness provides the stage, the depth, the emptiness. Light provides the brief, shining forms. Without the dark stretching outward, there would be no room for galaxies to breathe. Without emptiness, there could be no structure at all. You think for a moment of your own life. The pauses between breaths, the silences between words, the stretches of not knowing between answers. Those quiet spaces are not failures. They are the places where new understanding forms. The universe feels the same. Darkness gives rhythm to existence. It defines the edges of joy and motion, the contours of every glow. You drift closer to a spiral galaxy, its arms swirling like a slow whirlpool of starlight. From afar, its center looks black, a small void at the heart of brightness. As you move nearer, gravity deepens, folding space more sharply. Light from the inner regions bends, curving around a point that refuses to let it go. You've met this kind of darkness before, a black hole resting at the galaxy's core. Here, too, darkness is more than absence. It is an engine. Stars orbit around this hidden mass, their paths shaped by its gravity. Gas falls inward, heats, and sometimes erupts in jets that can outshine the galaxy that hosts them. The black hole's presence helps anchor the galaxy, tie its motions together. Destruction and structure share the same center. You remember what you learned earlier, the fall of light into such an abyss, the slow leak of Hawking radiation, the way even a black hole eventually returns itself to the universe. Now, you see the other side of that story. The same dark gravity that once consumed is part of what allows new stars to form in graceful systems instead of chaos. The cycle breathes quietly in your awareness. Light gathered, light swallowed, light remembered, light reborn. You slide back outward through the galaxy's dark matter halo, feeling again the invisible support beneath its spinning disk. From a distance, the galaxy looks fragile, as if a single touch could tear it apart. But you know now that something strong and silent holds it together. All the bright things, the stars, the nebulae, the glowing edges of galaxies make up only a tiny fraction of what exists. Most of the universe is dark. Dark matter, dark energy, vast stretches of seemingly empty space. The visible is the exception. The unseen is the rule. Unseen does not mean unimportant. It means subtle, foundational, real in ways that don't depend on being noticed. You think again of music. If notes rang without pause, they would blur into noise. It's the silence between them that turns sound into song. In the same way, the dark between stars, the gaps between galaxies, These are what make the universe's beauty legible. You start to sense that this darkness is not only out there, stretching between suns. It lives within you as well, not as something to fear, but as the inner space where your thoughts form before they arrive, where feelings deepen before they are named. Your mind, like the cosmos, needs its night to imagine a new day. Every idea begins in a quiet you can't quite describe. Every dream grows in the dark. You take a slow, gentle breath in your imagination and let the borders between light and darkness soften. The stars continue to gleam around you, each one framed by vast shadow. Black holes spin silently in the centers of galaxies. Dark matter holds the scaffolding of the cosmos in an invisible embrace. Dark energy carries everything outward, making room for whatever comes next. Suspended between all of this, you begin to understand what the universe has been whispering since the first photon crossed the void. The dark is not the opposite of light. It is the cradle that holds it. You close your eyes, and even there, behind your eyelids, a soft glow seems to linger, a memory of distant suns filtered through quiet. And in that warmth, wrapped in darkness, you feel something simple and undeniable. You too are made of both. And you know that as long as there is even one photon still shining, the dark will cradle it, protect it, and make it beautiful. You drift now into the universe's final rest, a place where time has almost forgotten how to move. The galaxies have thinned to faint ghosts of their former spirals, their arms stretched and tired from ages of turning. The stars you once watched blaze with such fierce certainty have grown dim, their lives drawn out to soft embers. One by one, they surrender their fire and fold gently back into the darkness that once carried them. There is no grief in their fading, only a quiet, natural stillness, the way a candle gives its last glow without regret. You pass through the remnants of an ancient cluster where red dwarfs burn their final drops of hydrogen, their light fragile and low. It flickers like lanterns lost in an endless night, more memory than flame. Around them drift frozen worlds, their oceans sealed under crystal shells and their skies unmoving, heavy with unbroken dark. Everything feels finished, yet nothing feels wrong. Even here, there is no sorrow, just completion. These stars shone as long as they could, turning darkness into warmth and emptiness into possibility. They forged elements that once built galaxies, mountains, oceans, and hearts that beat in the quiet of distant nights. Their exhaustion feels earned, like a long-awaited rest after a life fully lived. When their fuel is gone, each leaves behind a pale ember, a white dwarf cooling through spans of time so long they almost slip beyond imagination. Over ages that outlast language, these embers dim into black dwarfs, so cold and still that they vanish from sight. You glide past one now, and at first it seems as though nothing is there at all. Yet as you draw nearer, you feel its pull, a steady gravity lingering without light to announce it. It is matter at rest, memory without glow, a monument to time itself. The universe holds these remnants like final coals in a hearth gone dark but still meaningful. As you move on, the universe stretches outward, colder and thinner with every passing age. Space continues to expand, carrying each remaining fragment further away from all the others. The distances grow so vast that even light cannot bridge them anymore, no matter how long it tries. Reality becomes a scattering of lonely shadows, drifting through an endless night with no hope of reunion, yet without any sense of being lost. In the far reaches of this deep future, the last giants begin their own quiet farewell. Black holes, once the mighty engines at the hearts of galaxies, start to evaporate in earnest. You've seen this before. The slow whisper of Hawking radiation, the gentle escape of particles from a gravity well that seemed absolute. Now, across all of existence, this unraveling unfolds at once, like the final, soft verse of an ancient song. Each black hole shrinks, softens, and dissolves into a faint shimmer before melting into the background. It is strangely beautiful to realize that the last light the universe ever knows does not come from stars, but from the quiet unraveling of gravity itself. You float in their final glow, watching photons drift outward like sparks blown from a dying fire. They are soft, patient, and unimaginably old, and yet they still move, as if honoring a promise to never completely stop. One by one, even these last sparks thin, cool, and fade beyond any hope of detection. Trillions upon trillions of years pass, though the idea of years has long since lost its footing. The cosmic temperature falls until it sits just above absolute zero, a cold so deep that motion itself feels like a rumor. Atoms barely shiver, particles rarely meet. Yet even this is not emptiness. It is fullness completed. The universe, having used every opportunity it was given, everything that could happen has happened, and nothing has been cheated of its chance to be. Every star has forged its elements and released its light. Every galaxy has risen, turned, and loosened into nothing. Every atom has danced, collided, bonded, and drifted through countless forms. Every burst of brilliance, every quiet corner, every moment of awareness has played its part. It is peaceful now in a way the young universe could never have imagined, free from urgency and change. You drift through this stillness and are surprised by the comfort you find in it. The cosmos no longer roars or burns. It breathes so softly, it's almost motionless. Its silence feels like a lullaby, whose words have faded, but whose melody is still carried in your chest. Somewhere beneath this quiet, quantum fields still flutter, tiny vibrations that never entirely disappear. They are the faintest heartbeat of existence, too small to ignite a star, yet strong enough to remind reality that it has not vanished. It feels as though the universe has slipped into meditation, an infinite awareness without the need to act. There is no striving now, no growth, no collapse, no urgency to become anything more. In that stillness, you begin to sense what the universe might feel: relief. After eons of building and breaking, of expanding and cooling, of endlessly reshaping itself, it can finally simply be. You think of the long chain of moments that led you here, from the first flash of light to the first atoms, from galaxies and stars to planets and life and thought. All of it seems impossibly distant and yet intimately close, like memories from a life you half remember in a dream. Even here, you sense that every one of those moments is still woven into the fabric of space-time. Nothing was ever truly lost. It was only transformed and folded into a larger story. You look into the endless dark and understand something quiet and profound. The universe does not dread its resting place. It knows that endings are part of its pattern. Without pause, there is no renewal. Without stillness, no new movement. Without darkness, no new light. Everything it has ever been now sits inside a single, perfect breath, held between two unknowns. In that suspended breath, serenity takes the place of fear. Somewhere beyond all possible measure, a tiny fluctuation may stir a ripple in the vacuum smaller than an atom and lighter than a thought, the seed of another beginning. Perhaps the universe will dream again, as it has before, in ways you cannot imagine. Perhaps it will remain in this stillness forever, cradling its own memory without needing more. Either way, the beauty of this moment does not depend on what comes next. You drift with the universe as though resting beside it, sharing its final exhale. There is no longer any expansion you can feel, no light to guide you, no direction that truly matters. There is only presence, vast and gentle, and the soft weight of peace. You think about how every star, every world, every living mind was part of this great unfolding. Each spark of consciousness was a small act of the universe recognizing itself, if only for a brief time. Even now, your awareness is part of that same remembrance. You are the universe reflecting quietly on its own beauty before it sleeps. The last light has faded, but a different kind of warmth remains, the warmth of understanding that existence happened at all, that it was allowed to bloom, and that it once filled the dark with color and sound and wonder. That is enough to make even this silence feel full. The universe exhales one final time, not as a collapse, but as a gentle release. In that breath, it rests. You let your eyes close and allow the darkness to wrap around you, not as an ending, but as a soft return. There is no fear here, only stillness and the quiet rhythm of being, stretched so thin it almost blends with eternity. As the sound of all things fades, you send one last thought into the silence, like a small lantern set afloat on a vast, dark sea. You whisper a simple thank you to the stars you visited, to the stories you followed, to the cosmos that carried you this far. If this long journey through space and time has brought you calm, if it has eased your thoughts or softened your breath, then your presence has already added its own small light to the dark. Now, you are free to rest. Let sleep find you gently, and let your dreams roam wide. Somewhere in the quiet between the stars, the universe is dreaming too, and for a little while longer, you are dreaming with it.